What is up, everybody? Mr. Purtis here. Welcome to our AP World History Cram session. We're doing a little South Asia today, circa 2000, 2001. I'm taking this all the way through from the start of the AP World course through the end. This is a short video. If you haven't watched any of these other cram sessions, this isn't an all-inclusive video. I'm really just trying to give you a couple points to remember, but I always suggest for the AP exam, know two regions really well. Up to you which ones you choose. I got a couple different videos, but if you're watching this 4 weeks out or 5 weeks out before the exam trying to start studying, this is not one of those videos. This is one of those videos that you watch like 2 or 3 days before the exam, maybe the night before, just as a refresher. So let's get rocking and rolling here. First thing is our circa 1200 to 1450. This is the time period, if you don't remember, of regional kingdoms and regional empires and trade routes. That's really the two key things of this time period. During this time period, South Asia, which is also known as modern day India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, so it's the subcontinent of Asia. And so this is South Asia. So this time period, really the focus here of this region is the Indian Ocean trade. The Indian Ocean trade is a dominant trade route during this time period, and it's going to be a dominant trade route in the next time period. It's primarily going to be dominated by Muslim merchants during this time period. So remember, Islam comes up prior to 1200. Merchants or Muslims are encouraged to be merchants because Muhammad was a merchant, so it's seen as an honorable profession. So we see a lot of Islamic activity in this region. A lot of these port cities are going to lead people to convert. We're going to see a lot of syncretism, which is the blending of Islamic beliefs or an Arabic language with local beliefs and interactions. The thing is that most of this region has been Hindu for thousands of years. So when Islam comes in, really one of the keys throughout all of South Asia's history is that no matter who comes in, Hinduism remains the dominant belief system. So unlike other areas where Islam comes into and people convert, there's little conversion except on the coastal areas where we see a lot of merchant activity. So it's primarily Hindu. We see a little bit of Buddhism because that's where Buddhism originated. We see a little bit of Islam. But for the most part, this is a Hindu region. And politically, this area from circa 1200 to 1450 is very decentralized. It had been decentralized in South Asia for about 1,000 years. We're going back, if you know your early world history, we're talking going back to the Gupta Empire was the last time India was centralized. And one example of an empire here is the Vijayanagara, pardon my pronunciation on that, empire, which is about 300 years in the southern part here. It's brought up as like an example. I don't think they'll ever ask this specifically on a question, this name, but it's good to use an example. They're really tolerant. This empire is really tolerant of religions, which is really a common theme in South Asia of religious toleration. Also, there's the Bhakti movement, which is a Hindu reform movement. So there's a lot of reform of religions going on towards the end of this time period. And this is a Hindu reform movement that instead of going to religious leaders to learn about how to achieve salvation, how to achieve enlightenment. This is more about devotion to a particular god or spiritual idea. So that's going on. We also have from 1450 to 1750. Let me get my picture out of the way here. From 1450 to 1750, this is the gunpowder time period, right? So the empires who had guns were able to expand, and our gunpowder empire during this time period, especially in the second half of this time period, right around the 1600s, is the Mughal Empire. This is a empire that is considered to be a blend of the Mongol religion and Turkish people. So they come down into South Asia, which was decentralized, and essentially conquered and centralize the government. Now, there are local princes who are going to remain in charge and swear loyalty to the Mughals. Our main leader during this time period, the one person whose name pops up, is Akbar the Great. They do have monumental, these are kind of the characteristics over here of the gunpowder empires. We have centralized government, we have monumental architecture, which is the Taj Mahal. We also have military recruitment. How do we recruit soldiers for the government? And local leaders and nobles are going to send soldiers to the empire, to the what we consider like the centralized empire, to help protect it. So we have that, and we also have religious recruitment, or religious treatment, sorry. So this is a Muslim-dominated government or leaders who are ruling over a majority Hindu population. So the question becomes, what do you do? Do you force people to become Muslim, or do you allow religious toleration? And the Mughal leaders determine that it's best for them to allow religious toleration because Islam is a minority religion, maybe like 15, 20%. and they're going to allow this religious toleration. They do allow Hindus to serve in the government, which is, again, you got to imagine you're trying to keep these people on your side. How do you keep Hindus on your side if you're a Muslim government? Allow them to serve in government, give them positions of power. You're going to end what's called the jizya tax, which was common in a lot of Islamic empires, which is a tax on non-Muslims. So you get rid of that, so Hindus aren't taxed extra for not being Muslim. And also, Akbar allows religious toleration. His great-grandson or his grandson is going to reverse a lot of these policies, which is going to lead to tension in the 1700s. But early on, that's the thing. We also have a new religion emerge. Remember, a lot of offshoots in religious beliefs. In this region, we have Sikhism, which is really going to be a reaction against the caste system. So there's this Hindu caste system, which has been in place for years and years and years, which is integrated with, so the social class structure integrated with religion. And Sikhism is going to be a monotheistic belief, which really the focus is taking care of each other and one's neighbor. But it's really this reaction against Hinduism where this new religious belief sprouts up. Also, Indian Ocean is the place to be during this time period. This is the age of exploration. We have Europeans entering the Indian Ocean trade route, competing with Muslim merchants for access to trade and goods. But the Indian Ocean is the centerpiece of trade. The Silk Road is falling off in this time period after the Mongol rule ends, and the Indian Ocean trade with better ships and transportation and cargo hulls are going to allow the Indian Ocean to rise during this period and really become like the centerpiece of global trade. And remember, South Asia has tea, they have cotton, they have sugar, they have opium. These are all things that Europeans and other countries want, and that's the centerpiece. And then we have 1750 to 1900. I'm kind of breaking this up into two segments here. So the first segment here is kind of the 1750 to the 1850s. We have the Mughals who are still in charge through the mid-1800s, but we also have the British East India Company, which were the British joint stock company that has a monopoly on trade in South Asia for the British government. They are entering into South Asia in this time, and they're really, over time, they're gaining so much money that they're also gaining power as well. And they start to kind of control some areas of South Asia by like almost overthrowing princes and gaining control of local regions. So you can see this is a map over 100 years. What was the Mughal rule, which is in, this is the area of Mughal rule in pink. Sorry, I'm having trouble reading here. And in yellow is the British rule. And you can see how much it changes over 100 years. The Mughals are going to be weakened during this first half of this time period. And the British East India, if you remember, hired these soldiers that are called sepoys. And they're South Asian or Indian soldiers who work for the British East India Company. Eventually, these people are treated so badly by the British East India Company that they rebel in what's called the Sepoy Mutiny or Sepoy Rebellion. One of the rumors, and there's multiple reasons why I started, but one of the reasons is the gun cartridges had pig and cow fat, or at least that's what people thought. And for Hindus and Muslims, pig and cow fat is not something that you want to put your mouth on, and it leads to this rebellion of kind of feeling not treated fairly by the British. So there's going to be this Sepoy Rebellion. After the Sepoy Rebellion happens, the British Crown, the British Queen, and the government are like, we can't let the British East India Company gain all this influence down here in South Asia. There's too much money and power to be had, and it's the time period of imperialism. So the British government says, we are going to conquer and take over the subcontinent of South Asia. So the British government takes it over. They call themselves, their rule in India is called the British Raj, R-A-J, and they are going to officially overthrow the Mughal Empire in the 1850s. This is imperialism. So there's social Darwinism. There's poor treatment by the British of the Indians. We see educated Indians or intellectual Indians who show promise are going to be sent to London to get educated at some of the best schools in England, and they're going to be brought back to work for the British Raj. Those people who go to England, some of them are going to come back with these ideas of enlightenment and democracy and nationalism, and they come back to India and they're like, look at the treatment here. Look at what the white guy's just sitting here with someone in front of them. There's pictures of, throughout India, servants, people working specifically just for the British and not being treated fairly. The British are going to build railroads, telegraph lines, and steamships. So we do see the influence of some industrialization, which allows for more communication, which is going to allow for more nationalism to rise up in India because people can communicate. So that's going on by 1900. In the last time period of 1900 to 2001, in the first half of this time period, we have the World Wars. And the theme in the World Wars with the colonies is many of these colonies are promised independence if they help fight for the European powers. So there's going to be this, especially in South Asia, of Indian soldiers going and fighting on behalf of the British on the Western Front, for example, or fighting in World War II. And each time they're promised their independence. So after World War I, they say, where's our independence? And the British government says, you're not ready yet, so we're going to wait a little bit longer. And that is going to lead to an increase in nationalism. So we're going to see a rise in the Indian National Congress and the membership of the All-Muslim League. And the main leader of this movement of nationalism and decolonization and independence is Gandhi, who is believed in nonviolence and civil disobedience, which is breaking unjust laws. So we're going to take laws that are in India, in the British Raj. For example, you can't buy salt from anyone else other than the British. So Gandhi leads a march called the Salt March, where they march to the coast and they take ocean water and take the salt from the ocean water and say, we're going to use this instead. We're going to break any law, like, any law that the British have that we feel is unjust. We're going to break that law civilly. We're not going to fight with violence, and then we're going to get arrested. Gandhi went on hunger strikes. He is spinning his own cloth here. And by spinning that own cloth, he's saying, we're not going to buy cloth from the British, from their factories. We're going to make our own clothing to try and make Britain bankrupt by being here. And then after World War II ends, the British decide, through negotiations with the Indian people, to partition India. So they're going to split it into two countries, India and Pakistan. And it eventually becomes three countries, Pakistan, India, and this East Pakistan is going to become known as Bangladesh. And by these countries, when they are split, is going to lead to a lot of migration. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to leave India who are Muslim, and they're going to leave to go to Pakistan. And a lot of people from Pakistan who are Hindu are going to go to India, and there's fighting along the way. Both of these countries today have a lot of tension between them. They both have nuclear weapons, which is called nuclear proliferation. And there's been a huge population explosion since the late 1970s as a result of the Green Revolution, which, if you remember, is the increase of fertilizer and crop rotation and better techniques to increase food, which increases the population. That is a quick whirlwind. That's 800 years of Indian history in 12 minutes. So as always, you got any questions, let me know. That's what I got. I'm out.